How'd you like your shit? Hot and steamy? Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm going to be talking about The Suicide Squad, the new James Gunn movie. Went to watch it yesterday and my initial thoughts were I didn't like this movie. This movie did nothing for me. It just felt like an unnecessary reboot, remake, resurgence of these characters. A movie that feels like they are desperate for it to become something bigger than it is. The Suicide Squad doesn't translate well on film for me. It was one of the most forgettable movies I've ever seen. I just really didn't enjoy this movie. I think if Idris Elba wasn't in this movie, I would have walked before the third act. I know this is probably going to strike a lot of controversy because I'm seeing a hell of a lot of people give this movie 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, best DC movie. For me, it just wasn't. It just fell flat. Everything about it, the dynamic between the characters, they just didn't work for me. They didn't gel. I felt that they gelled more in the first one, like Harley Quinn and Will Smith's character in the first one with Diablo. They gelled better with Rick Flag. I thought in this one, it was a mishmash. It was totally random. There was so much like random segments in this movie. And one of the biggest gripes for me was the comedy. It landed flat on its face. All the comedy in this movie, it was insulting. Some of it was that bad, I felt insulted by it. It was just Christmas cracker jokes, stuff like that. Some of the actual laughs were through more things that happened in the movie, like a ridiculous kill would make somebody laugh. But the comedy lines, the writing was terrible in this movie. The story was non-existent for me. It didn't even build up any of the characters. There's a segment in the first one where Amanda Waller is sat around a table bringing out the paperwork of each individual character and giving you a little bit of their backstory. There was none of that in this one. Very little. Very forgettable characters that I just did not care about. You know, Harley Quinn in this movie, she was incredibly zany. I love Margot Robbie. You know, she is Harley Quinn. She's got the look and the feel down. But in this movie, she was just whiny and just coming across as annoying. On the flip side of that, she does have a segment in the middle of the movie which was probably the best set piece of the whole movie for me. But other than that, I think if it wasn't for Idris Elba, I would have walked from this movie. His character was, it was the glue that held this movie together. And it suffers also from something that a lot of films do now. It didn't have a good villain in it. Like Black Widow recently didn't have a good villain. You know, not a memorable bad guy. You know, you've seen it in the trailers. It's a huge starfish. It's mental. Some of the CGI at the end is like really disorientating. The soundtrack for this movie as well was terrible. I didn't enjoy the soundtrack at all. I went home after watching it and re-watched the original Suicide Squad. That movie, you know, wasn't a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I did prefer some of the comic elements Aya did in that movie. That I thought they landed a little bit better because of the dynamic of the group. But the soundtrack in the first movie was really good. You know, it was one of the best parts of the movie. But this one, it was non-existent to me. I couldn't even tell you one song that was in this movie. You know, we open in the first one with like, I think it's All Along the Watchtower or The House of Rising Sun, one of them two. Awesome soundtrack, you know, just a well thought out movie soundtrack, you know. But this one, no, like I was expecting way more. Like Guardians of the Galaxy had a lot of heart in it. Really enjoyed that movie, and that was characters that we had never met before. Unless you were familiar with the comic books, you wouldn't have known who the characters of the Guardians of the Galaxy were, but instantly fell in love with them characters. I cared more about a rat in the Suicide Squad than I did of any other characters in the whole movie. It was just a snooze fest. The middle was boring. It was like violent for violence sake. It was just gratuitous violence for the sake of it. And I love violent movies. I love the horror, the gore, you know, but it was just trying to be violent for violence sake, just to say it's a violent movie. It had the violence, it didn't have the heart for me. It was just a movie that, for me, what they should have done is they should have created these characters. They should have had like a Bloodsport, your Harley Quinn, your Killer Croc, your Deadshot. All those movies should have been brought out first, then they brought out a Suicide Squad movie. They have tried to force a Suicide Squad movie on us, but you can just see through the cracks straight away. It wasn't a great movie. And, you know, it's going to be very divided, this one. A lot of people in the comments are probably going to pull me apart for this one. But I'm not going along with the crowd on this one. You know, if you went and enjoyed this movie, then all power to you. Fair play to you. Some people have said, I've wrote an Instagram review, and some people, you know, they just say you just want to pull the movie apart for the sake of pulling it apart. I don't. I pre-ordered the 4K Steelbook of this movie. I tried to stay away from as many trailers as I could. I seen some of the reviews on Friday, and it got me super hyped when people coming out saying it's a 9 out of 10, soundtrack's amazing, great movie, best DC movie. It wasn't in the slightest at all. It was not the best DC movie whatsoever. You know, I think I prefer the original Suicide Squad movie. I just thought the tone of that movie was better, the soundtrack was better, the look and the feel. The Suicide Squad movie, they're relying on Harley Quinn to carry the movie. The characters need somebody like a Batman or a Superman to take the weight and carry these movies forward to make it the big summer blockbuster. You know, I gave it a 2 out of 5 in my review, and it's a movie that I probably would never watch again. It has been a long time since I felt like I wanted to walk out of a movie theatre halfway through the movie. And if Idris Elba wasn't in the movie, I would have walked. Hands down would have walked. I think the last time I walked out of a movie halfway through was one of the later Scary movies. But I'm saying, if you went and you enjoyed it, then more power to you. I wanted to enjoy this movie, but it was just everything that I didn't want to see in a movie. It was forgettable. It was quite boring in the middle. But if you enjoyed it, like I said, more power to you. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. Obviously, a lot of people are going to think I'm completely out of left field and it's an amazing movie. But let me know in the comments. Give me a like, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll bring you some more soon. I'm trying not to spoil this movie for people who want to watch it, because I know everyone wants to watch it. It's the big new movie. But yeah, for me, it just didn't hit the mark at all. It didn't land at all for me. Really disappointed. Really didn't enjoy this movie. But yeah, thanks for joining in, guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.